Hello friends, how are you today? I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to come to you very quickly to talk to you about a distinct timeline shift. I'm going to try not to move the angle. A distinct timeline shift that set the collective off in, I believe, a very negative direction. And it is something that if you were around during the time, you would remember it. But for some reason, as a collective, everybody kind of just, I don't know if they forgot, but a lot of times people don't know how to put the pieces together. And so I'm going to tell a little story, and that story is going to be the example. If you have been following along here, you will know that I have very much shunned the dark world. I am not a fan of media. I am not a fan of Hollywood. I'm not a fan of the government. I'm not a fan of politics, any of that stuff, particularly anymore. I didn't always feel that way. And I, just like everybody else, experienced the world in a very interactive way for a very, very long time. However, there were things that occurred that really soured me against the world, and eventually I realized just how dark it was. And this is one of those things, and I believe an entire generation of girls specifically were affected very deeply by this, and then generations to come. It really was the dark world succeeding in a very, very heinous way and cursing generations. The dark world curses bloodlines, and they also just curse generations of women by giving them a poor example to look up to. And so when I was a young girl, I absolutely adored, admired, and was in awe and inspired by Diana Frances Spencer, former princess of Wales, someplace. That was not the point. The point is that she was an extraordinary woman. If you were lucky enough or blessed enough to be, especially growing up in the era of Diana, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She was a princess. If you looked at her face, her mannerisms, the way she pouted, the way she smiled, the way she laughed, the way she moved, everything about her. She was bold, she was brave, she was tough, but she was also delicate, and she was the most elegant woman that I'd ever seen displayed for public consumption. She just took my breath away every time I saw her, and I admired her and adored her and looked up to her. And I used to watch her, especially on these missions that she would do to these other countries. And I would say to myself, if I could grow up to be as elegant and as graceful and as gracious as this woman is, I would really have succeeded as an adult, because she was just a one of a kind, outstanding, breathtaking human being, and really just a wonderful example. And I have never looked up to any sort of celebrity or famous person after that, but I didn't have to. Not in that way. There are some people that I truly, truly loved and admired also growing up. Whitney Houston was one of them. And the other one truly was Aaliyah. She was unlike anything I'd ever seen. And she really, really took my breath away every time I saw her. And as you can see, those are all very tragic stories, all three of them. And the thing that happened with Diana was that she was basically chased down and killed by the paparazzi. And that was a devastating shift in timeline for the collective, especially for young girls, because her light and her example was one that was something that young girls should aspire to be. And I'm going to name names here, and I don't want to offend any of these women, especially now, as in this particular conversation. There's a lot of times that I say stuff that's very arrogant or very biting towards them, but I'm going to use them as an example and not in a negative way, just in an informational way. The next time I looked up, the young girls had Pamela Anderson to look up to, and then after that it was Kim Kardashian, and the next time I looked up it was Cardi B, and that was not good. That broke my heart to see each generation get something lesser and lesser every single time to replace this woman who was extraordinary, who inspired me to be the person that I am. And I see girls being inspired by those other girls, and the society has really, really tumbled because of it. And I'm going to say this is no offense to the women that I mentioned, and this is no offense, obviously, to the girls who have been inspired by them. They were only accepting what they were given. If you remember, if you're of my age or older, or maybe a little bit younger, you will remember the time of Diana. And she was really, really setting the tone for a different type of woman. And for her to have been, her light to have been snuffed out in the way that it was a devastating shift in timeline for the collective, really solidifying the fall of man energy, because the womankind was set sort of to fail without someone like her. And then, like I said before, really the other people who came along were snuffed out as well. But there are still members of that kind of ilk here. I aspire to be one of them. I hope that I am. I looked up to her and used her as an example. And even though she was taken away, I just stuck to her example. And I carry that energy with me here now. And I do hope to influence others with it, because that is where we were supposed to go. So just know that even though we were kind of like thwarted a little bit, the light still firmly has held on to that energy, and it still does live. And not just me, there's a lot of girls out there, a lot of women out there that are the same. And we will be given our time back in the spotlight once again. Okay, thank you. I love you.